Well, today I am joined by John Barcanic. He's a leadership strategist, consultant, speaker, and founder of Barcanic Consulting. John works with business owners and executive teams to help them create clarity, alignment, and sustainable growth inside their organizations. He's known for helping leaders move beyond chaos and reactive decision-making into high-performance leadership and strategic execution. John, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, super excited to be here. As I was researching and learning more about your background, and as we've had conversations, I love the way that you simplify things and how you're explaining things. You have certain taglines like the founder's funnel and the midlife crisis of the business that pulls you in. And so I think it's going to be a super beneficial conversation as we break down what some of those mean, how you help people in that, and just how we help owners think a bit more strategically along the way. And yeah, I'd love to learn a little bit more about the founder's funnel. Well, what is it? How do you know that you're in it or out of it, or how do you use it? I'd love to learn a little bit more.
Yeah. So the founder's funnel is when everything important has to flow through the founder. So they are in the funnel. Yeah. And everything flows to them. Another way to picture it is they've got their fingers in all the pies, and all the major decisions, everything has to go through them. And the challenge, there's a bunch of challenges with that, but for the founder, the biggest challenge is the business can never outgrow their personal capacity. And some founders have a lot of capacity. I've worked with people who have 100, 150 employees, but still everything important has to flow through them.
Yeah.
So it's not a matter of you can't grow, it's a matter of the way you grow isn't very healthy, and then at a certain point, you can't grow. So even if you're super high capacity, there are limits because the business is tied to your own personal capacity.
Yeah. Yeah, how does a business owner begin to get out of that? Because it's a scary journey, I think, for most people. Yeah. As they're just trying to think through, what do I give away first? How do I just even begin? I think most people know, that I'm kind of the bottleneck, but how do they begin?
Yeah, so maybe if we zoom out just a little bit, I would say the beginning is to realize that your primary role as a business owner, as soon as you add any kind of staff, even if it's 1099 contractors, your main role has to be leadership. So you may have expertise in finances or operations, or you may be a doctor or whatever the thing is, but as soon as you start to bring other people into play, you need to begin to have expertise in leadership. And so that's the first shift that people need to make. The second shift is that leadership looks really different depending on the size of the group that you're leading. So when you're leading 2 or 3 people, it looks a certain way. When you're leading 10 people, when your business grows bigger than 10, typically you need to start to bring in some other leaders, at least first level kinds of managers. And so then you're leading managers now. You're not just leading frontline people. And so again, your leadership has to look different. So there are different stages where the leadership has to adjust. And so becoming fluent in leadership and paying attention to that as a skill set, as an expertise, in addition to whatever your kind of technical expertise is really the first shift. The second shift then is to figure out what are the things that I'm doing that I don't have to be doing.
Yeah.
And often there's 2 pieces that often come to that. One is we'll go through and do a time study, which everybody hates. I hate it.
Yeah.
I force myself to do the same thing whenever I'm working with a client that has to be doing that for a couple of weeks because it's miserable.
Yeah. But I'm going to have you tell Asa that after this. I've been preaching that to him for a while.
Yeah, it's awful. But the data from it is really helpful.
Yeah.
And just track your time. And what we do is, along with tracking your time, you track things like, how did I feel when I did this? Yeah. Did I love it? Did I loathe it? What was the impact of this on the business?
Yeah.
And so with just a couple weeks of that kind of data, then we can look and see, Are you working on the most important things? Are you working on the things that you're best at?
Yeah.
Are you working on the things that are things only the owner can do? Or are you working on a whole bunch of different things? And let's be honest, the owner is the highest paid person in the business, or should be. And you may be doing things as the owner that you could be paying somebody $15 an hour to do. And that's just money out the window.
Yeah. So a few questions there. So leadership, how would you define that?
Oh. I think the simplest definition I've heard, which is probably the easiest to understand, is John Maxwell says leadership is influence. And if you're a single mom and you're influencing your kids as they grow up, that's leadership. If you're CEO of a Fortune 500 company and you're influencing people in the company to align and go a certain way, that's leadership.
How do you then begin to develop that influence? Going from, I see this all the time, I see it in myself, right? Going from the technical person who does the work, the doctor, the accountant, the lawyer, to I now need to have influence and over employees and contractors. How do you begin to develop that?
Yeah. I think the first step is just to get some information. There's got to be thousands of books on leadership. Many of them are good. But I would say probably one of the best ones, and it's a classic in the field, it's called The Leadership Challenge. And I think it's on, I don't know, maybe the 7th edition. And it looks at basically 4 or 5 different pieces that are necessary for leadership. And so starting with something like that really lays it out quite simply in terms of, here are the things you need to be thinking about as a leader, and then practicing those things and thinking about, how do I do with this? Getting some input from other people. How do you see me objectively as I'm doing this?
Yeah.
A lot can be done just with that kind of awareness. And then finding good mentors. Obviously, a coach or a consultant can be helpful, but even like old dead guys. Like there's a book on Churchill's leadership that's quite good. Or there's stuff from, I mentioned John Maxwell, he has some good things. So there's all kinds of resources out there that you can just start to expand your knowledge of the field of leadership.
Yeah.
So it's really it's a topic like any other. My daughter's been getting into hockey recently and never knew. She knew that you had a puck and you hit it and get it into the net, right? But other than that, she knew almost nothing. But she started to watch YouTube videos and learn about things and learn about the teams, and especially professional women's hockey. And leadership is the same thing. You just immerse yourself in that.
Yeah.
And little by little start to do some things. And if it would be helpful, we can put some things in the show notes. I could recommend 4 or 5 books for people who are just starting out, something like that.
Yeah, absolutely. What is when they begin, because the other thing you said was begin to push down the things that you shouldn't be doing. Are there kind of common things that you see across owners that they're holding on to that they shouldn't? What does that often look like?
Yeah, I would say the things that people tend to hold on to most that they shouldn't are some of the administrative things. And so I have to be the one who communicates to everybody, or I'm going to do my own bookkeeping, or I'm going to, in fact, I have a friend who's a business strategist for an accounting company. And in his elevator pitch, when he does networking and stuff, he says, have you ever run across a business owner who says, it's time for me to go home. I'm going to pour myself a cocktail and work on my books.
Yeah.
That's a good recommendation for him, right?
Yeah.
Because as an owner, at a certain point, pretty early on, you shouldn't be doing your own bookkeeping.
Yeah.
And so I think those are the kind of things that are usually typical at the early stages. Then at a little bit later stages, then it becomes decision making.
Yeah.
And so what are the decisions that other people can make? And often the way that you get there is, first you have to have the right people that you can trust and you believe in those people. And so that's a whole hiring training issue. But then the second piece is actually giving people a framework. And so I'm a big fan, I didn't make up this phrase, but I'm a big fan of the phrase freedom within a framework. if you work for me and I want to be able to delegate some decision making to you, so what are the kinds of things that you can make decisions on?
Yeah.
And then what are the frameworks for those decisions? I still want you to think like me, I don't want you to be my clone, because you're going to bring strengths that I don't have, I hope. But I want you to not come at it from a totally different angle. So we're still going to have the same values, we're still going to have the same culture, those kind of things. Consciously thinking through what's the framework for those kinds of decisions. And often it can be helpful to have somebody else, even somebody else in the company, help you think through that framework, because we do so much on instinct. We've been running the business for so long, or we just operate on intuition. It's hard for us to kind of objectivize, is that a word?
Yeah.
What that framework would be.
Yeah. What does that look like? Let's say you're at the point of you're going to hire that first manager, supervisor type position. They're going to take on making some decisions. Like, how do you set up a successful framework that isn't too detailed, right? Gives them an idea of what they should do.
Yeah. Often what we recommend, if it's possible, is to have what we call an operator. So the visionary, the idea person is typically the founder, and then you have somebody else who would be like a chief operating officer. You're probably not going to have a chief operating officer in a company of 10 people, but you can have somebody who's basically operations, right? They're overseeing a lot of the day-to-day kinds of things. So what you need to do is just lay out what are the different aspects, different responsibilities that they have. And then within each of those responsibilities, what are the kinds of things that will come up? What are the kinds of decisions that need to get made? So hiring, maybe the owner still wants to have final say on any given hire, but they are able to delegate the early parts of interviews and searching for people and running all of that. The executive role I had for a while, I wanted to have the final interview with every single person who we hire. It's a fairly large organization. And I trusted my people to have all of the kind of technical questions answered. So if we were going to hire somebody in finance, the head of finance was going to vet them for all the financial stuff. I didn't need to do any of that. Basically, what I wanted to do was, are they a cultural fit? Do we have a values fit? And then what I call the Guinness test, which is anybody who works for me, I wanted to make sure that they're the kind of person I would want to go out and get a beer with after work. I don't drink. It's easy to remember the Guinness test.
Yeah.
In a 20, maybe 30-minute conversation, I can get that kind of information. This person's already been vetted for all the other things. So that kind of clarity on, okay, this is what you need to look for, this is what I'll look for, then together we'll make a decision.
Yeah.
So that's just an example of the level of decision making that they're responsible for. What things do they have to ask permission for? You can't spend more than X amount of dollars without permission. That's a pretty typical one. So those kind of things.
Yeah. One thing I find in some of my conversations is, when it comes to the lower level task, I feel like a lot of owners, they get that at some level. Okay, I can bring somebody in to knock out the bookkeeping, to handle this administrative. It seems to be a little bit harder when it comes to relinquishing the decisions. It also is more costly in the type of the salary that you have to give that person. Right. How would you articulate or quantify? I'm always thinking through it on the financial side, right? Mm-hmm. The return of investment that they would get from taking that step of, okay, I'm going to give away some of the decisions so that that doesn't have to bog my mind down.
Yep.
It is an upfront cost. There's the training, there's obviously the salary of the person, there's all of that. How would you begin to explain or quantify that return on investment when an owner takes that step?
Yeah, I think there's two areas of value that they'll get a return on. The first is the financial, so kind of the hard value. And that's the easiest to quantify, because you can say, okay, for instance, I'm going to hire an operator and it's going to cost me, we'll just make up round numbers, $100,000 a year. And well, that's a lot of money. What does that free me up to do? If I have a full-time person who's doing all these other things, and I've gone through the process of figuring out what I'm actually doing, how much time does that free me up for, and what could I be doing with that?
Yeah.
Typically, for quite a while, the owner has to be the primary person involved in new client acquisition. Even once you bring somebody on for sales, the owner is still involved with that.
Yeah.
Just that in terms of new client acquisition, or in terms of lifetime value for clients, in terms of we can keep more clients, we can keep better clients because the owner is able to have more involvement with them, those kind of things. So that's one. The second is what I call soft value, and in some ways it's more important, I think, but that's what's the personal impact on the owner's life. So what does it do to the owner to not have to be carrying the weight of all of this? What does that do for his or her family? What does it do for their ability to sleep at night?
Yeah.
What does it do for, when was the last time you took a vacation and just really unplugged?
Yeah.
Can you do that, or do you not know what you might come back to?
Yeah.
So I think all of those things are ways of adding that up.
Yeah.
There is, and I don't know if this is something you're going to get to, but just in case you don't, there is an intermediate step that more and more business owners are going to, and that's the idea of a fractional. So if you bring in like a fractional operator or a fractional CFO or some of those kind of things, that can be a way to dip your toe in to save some money, but still get really high level expertise.
Yeah.
That's not necessarily just interim. It can, you can have somebody fractional for several years, and that can be really effective.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. When, as we're thinking through going back to the influence, as we're thinking through how to build influence with these people that we're bringing on, you have a wide range of experience in both for-profit and non-for-profit companies. Are the things that motivate employees in those different arenas different? Are they the same? What have you seen that really gets staff members excited about the influence of the owner, the mission of the company?
That's a great question. I would say that's changing as the builder generation, kind of the World War II generation, is mostly out of the workforce now. The boomers are moving out of the workforce. And then you've got Gen X, which would be me, and Gen Y, Gen Z, and so on. The younger you go, the more important mission is, and the why of the business. Obviously, we're talking in broad strokes, but in general, the boomers were more concerned about, they have a job because they want to make a good living, and they want to provide for the family and have money and things like this. The younger the generation is, they are more concerned about having a life, and how does the work that I do fit into my values for my life.
Yeah.
And that's often misunderstood generation. Like what can look like I don't want to work or laziness or whatever is often more, I don't see the purpose in this. And so I don't want to invest a whole lot into something that is just for a paycheck.
Yeah.
So from that perspective, I would say that the nonprofit and the business, the way you motivate people, and I hesitate to even use that phrase, motivate people, because at some level, people need to be self-motivated. But the way that you create a context for them to stay motivated is, it always starts with the why, with the purpose. And it doesn't matter if you're making widgets or if you're helping the homeless, there is a way, if you think deeply enough about it, that your work should be impacting the lives of people. And if you can keep that both in front of yourself, but also in front of your team members, I think that's the place to start in terms of what are we doing? Why are we here? We're here to provide this excellent product that does this for our clients, or this excellent service that does this. Every organization at some level, I believe, exists to promote human flourishing.
Yeah.
And so how are we helping humans flourish, even in some small way?
Yeah.
And if we can get that, and if we can clearly and compellingly communicate that, then a lot of the other things fall into place.
Yeah. Yeah. I very similarly, but worded like cultivating life. When I'm working on a client, am I cultivating a more abundant life for everybody in this business through the financial decisions that we're making? And that's because I find the same thing. I need more purpose than just the money that comes from this client or this job. I definitely find that. Is it easier to create that in a non-for-profit setting?
That kind of purpose-driven?
Yeah.
I would say it's more obvious because the purpose of the nonprofit is typically to help people in some way.
Yeah.
And the more human-centered the nonprofit is, so like an arts nonprofit, it might be a little less obvious than like a human services nonprofit.
Yeah.
But I don't think it's necessarily easier because I think in some ways, once you've identified that, it makes you unique in the marketplace. And so your ability to draw the best of the best and to keep really great talent and to create a really great culture, which is not only going to attract team members, it's going to attract great vendors and great clients. And so it's this kind of flywheel effect of the more you do that, the more you focus on that, the more everybody wins, the better everything gets.
Yeah. Yeah. Switching gears a little bit, how do you know when your company's in a midlife crisis?
Yeah, so we use the term midlife crisis to refer to companies that have had success. So if you think about like the growth life cycle of a business, they've grown, they've had success, they continue to do the same things that brought them success, but they're not having the same results. So either they've peaked and plateaued, or maybe they're even in decline a little bit.
Yeah.
And that's how we would define midlife crisis. Yeah. If you're doing the things that did bring you success, but they aren't bringing you the same kind of success.
Yeah. What often leads to that plateau, do you think? What's kind of the cause of that? Because I see that in a lot of businesses.
Yeah.
Like you get to a certain revenue level, you plateau, and then you get creative, figure something out, you go to the next, and you plateau. And it seems almost like a normal cycle of business. How does it happen that way?
Yeah, there can be a number of different reasons. Some of them are external. Blockbuster Video went through that because external factors, technology, how people viewed how they wanted to consume video, all that kind of thing. There can also be internal factors. If you just get complacent, if you're no longer treating your customers like they're the best thing since sliced bread. There's a very common thing that happens in terms of the life cycle where you start out thinking very innovatively and entrepreneurially, and as you grow, everything is chaotic. And so to combat the chaos, you need to bring in systems people. And so you bring in the systems people, and those are often people who want everything in their boxes, everything done the same way, that kind of thing, which is good. But if you allow those people to get too much control, you lose the creativity, the innovation, all of that. And so you get up here and you've reached that plateau, but you can't get past that without having that sense of innovation again.
Yeah.
So often the human temptation when we are facing something like an organizational midlife crisis is to think if we can just go backwards a little bit, then we can recapture the magic.
Going backwards as in slowing revenue almost, or?
No, just what was life like when we were at our best?
Got it.
So we'll do that, or we'll look for those kinds of people, or when in reality, you do need to go backwards, but you have to go all the way back to the beginning.
Yeah.
You have to think like an entrepreneur again.
Yeah.
You have to start over and say, what business are we in? And the best example of this is 3M, which the history of 3M, I forget exactly what the M's were, but mining and something else, like they weren't at all in office supplies and,
Sure.
the things that they're doing now.
Yeah.
But they saw the handwriting on the wall and they reinvented themselves.
Got it.
And being able to say, what business are we really in? Who are the people we're really serving? What are the problems that they actually have? Are they the same problems? Are they different problems? Are the solutions the same? Are there different kinds of solutions? And opening that whole can of worms, not being afraid to have all those discussions, and then make some choices about, okay, based on who we are, these are the people we want to serve. This is how we can best serve them. This is how we can bring our expertise and our uniqueness into the game.
Yeah. Oh, that's good. How does AI impact the culture? I almost hate talking about it, but I hear it all the time, and I feel like the perception from the employee standpoint is the owner wants to replace me eventually. And maybe in some cases that's true. But how do you utilize it and still, it's obviously a helpful tool, but how do you do that in a way that still uplifts the culture, still keeps people motivated, excited? How do you do that?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think part of the challenge in answering that question, part of the reason that question is such a good one, is that AI is still so young.
Yeah.
And so because we don't know where it will be even a year from now, we don't know what it will be capable of or what the dangers will be. There's the whole law of unintended consequences, and we just don't know. Some of the things that the people from Anthropic are saying are pretty scary in terms of what could be developed. At the same time, I want to live in the tension of, here's a tool that can be very helpful. You could also slice off your fingers with it, right? Let's just recognize that it's got sharp edges, but that doesn't mean we have to necessarily avoid it altogether.
Yeah.
I think the way I see it is we want to engage with AI in ways that make us more human. I think the predominant way that we see it used is in trying to replace the things that humans currently do well. And I think that's a mistake. I think there are certain things that humans will usually do better than computers. And then there are things that computers clearly do better than humans. And so if we can get that role definition correct, then it's easier to use the tool in a way that everybody can be happy about.
Yeah.
I'll just give you a personal example. I was at a fast food restaurant, I don't know, maybe 3-4 months ago, and they were just introducing AI to take your order in the drive-thru. And it was awful. It was just awful. The voice recognition was bad. It didn't know what to do with a whole bunch of responses that didn't fit into its kind of decision tree. And I was with my wife, and I told my wife later, I said, they're using AI for the wrong thing. Yeah. They should be using AI to automate making the burger, because that's the thing that computers can do really well, right? You set the temperature right, put the meat on at the right time, you time it exactly right, you flip it at the right time. You figure out through the algorithms exactly how many burgers based on the statistics of how busy people are, the restaurant is, all those kind of things. But instead they were using AI for the customer interaction, and people are really good, or can be really good at customer interaction.
Yeah.
Reading tone of voice, understanding what people are actually saying or what they actually mean. One of the things, my wife hates this, but one of the things I always do when I order at a fast food restaurant is I want light ice in my pop. And it is pop, right? It's not soda. In my pop. But when I say light ice, I don't want the amount where you hit the light ice thing. That's too much. I want half that much ice.
Yeah.
A human can hear that and understand it and adjust to it easily. It's unlikely the decision tree for the AI is going to have anything about that, because it's such an odd request.
Yeah.
So that's, I think, part of the answer is let's use AI for the things that AI is naturally going to be good at. And then, and I think this is something that especially small and medium-sized businesses struggle with, is let's also recognize that any new technology is going to require change management. AI, especially because of the fears. My boss just wants to replace me.
Yep.
Maybe your boss wants to replace you, but there's easier ways than getting involved with AI, right? If we really want to replace you. So let's be clear about what our end goal is, and let's have an actual process of change management and say, here's how we're going to teach people, here's how we're going to think about this, here's what we're hoping to accomplish, here's the pain that this is going to solve for us, all of those kind of things, rather than just suddenly you go to a 2-day training and you're expected to fill in the blank.
Yeah. So it's less buy the subscription, say, hey, everybody use it.
Exactly.
I expect you to be twice as more efficient.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And more, again, the framework of what's the framework that I hope that they accomplish it with this.
Yeah.
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 Yeah. I think companies could be better about rolling that out. Yeah, I sense a lot of fear. Well, not even just a sense. It's openly talked about everywhere.
Yeah.
With a lot of fear around AI. And even my own perception is it gets annoying. Oh, just put that in an AI. It's an annoying feeling when it's like you know you want to use it. You know you want to get more efficient with it. But as the person in the organization, it doesn't feel like it builds that influence that we were talking about earlier.
Yeah. Yeah. And so I know people who they can't do anything now without AI.
Yeah.
And they put everything through ChatGPT, and whatever ChatGPT tells them, that's the answer.
Yeah.
And that kind of thing is where it gets scary for me, not because there's too much power with ChatGPT, but there's like too much dumbing down of ourselves.
Yeah.
Oh, I could never write copy for this thing because that's ChatGPT's job.
Yeah.
If you're going to do it kind of yourself, then you should start by doing it yourself. GPT might be able to help you make it better, or like it could be a thinking partner.
Yeah.
Okay, what are some ideas for whatever? And then you take that. But
going back to your point earlier of like, what is the human good at? Is the computer good at?
Yeah.
The computer is very bad at challenging ideas.
Yeah.
And the human's very good at that in most cases.
Yeah.
ChatGPT is the most agreeable thing ever. It will spit out something wrong and you'll say, I don't think that's correct. Oh, of course, you're so right.
It's so obsequious. Yeah.
But yeah, it's important to have that kind of challenger in the arena with you. It's very cool. What is, to start wrapping it up, if you were to give advice to the business owner, they're beginning to build that influence. They have the pressures of technology and how do I manage these people? What can I give off? All that. In order to build that influence, what would be first couple practical steps that you would say?
So I would ask what level of influence they already have and what it's based on.
Can you ask your employees that? Or is that a dangerous territory?
It depends on the employee. Yeah, I would say it's dangerous, but I would say there are situations. I've had team members that I could pretty much ask them anything. They knew they could tell me anything. Yeah. But I guess I was thinking that for me to answer your question, the first thing I would do with the business owner is ask them, what kind of influence do you currently have and where does it come from? Influence can come from your position, like you're the owner, so automatically you have a certain level of influence. It can come through expertise because you are the best CPA, and that's why you started this firm. It can come from just having a charismatic personality. There's a bunch of reasons it might come. It can come through relationships. And so the best leaders have a number of those kind of forms of influence. You can think of it like Velcro. Velcro is basically a bunch of microscopic hooks and loops, right? Yeah. And so the more loops you have that people can hook into, the stronger your leadership is. Yeah. And so I would encourage people to think through that. Do I have any influence? And then what does that influence look like? And then I would ask them, what are you willing to give up in order to gain what you're looking for? So not just in terms of time and what you do, but in terms of kind of the prestige of leadership. So the surest predictor of a leader's success is how committed to the leader their followers are. Which, if you think about it, it's totally logical, because if your followers aren't committed to you, they're not going to go to the mat for you. But if you've got a group of followers who would run through a brick wall for you, you almost can't help but be successful as a leader. And so what are you willing to give up to have that kind of influence with people? And often that means I'm willing to give up taking the credit for things. I'm willing to give up financial, personal or business financial gain in order to pay people more. I'm willing to give up. There's a bunch of things that we can do as leaders to really pour into our people that will help them, that will influence them in their commitment level and their engagement and things like that. Not in a manipulative way. Manipulation is, I'm going to do something that either is a secret and you're not going to know I'm doing it to get you to do something, or it's coercive, but just in a very honest way, that we want the best business we can have, the best organization, and to do that we need the best people. And I'm still learning as a leader, but I know that one of the things I can do is try to help my people become the best people. And if I can't do that personally, I'm going to find ways of bringing others in or sending you out to places. And so those kinds of investments pay really good dividends.
Yeah, that's awesome. How can people find out more about you?
Yeah, I'm on LinkedIn. LinkedIn, just John Barcanic. I am the only John Barcanic on LinkedIn.
Wow.
In fact,
nice.
I think I'm the only John Barcanic spelled the way we spell it in the world.
Wow, that's awesome.
It's a really unique name. Or they can go to our website, which is just Barcanic, BARCANIC.com.
Yeah. John, thanks for coming on the show. Truly an honor to have your expertise on here and learn from you. And for everybody watching, we'll see you next time.
Appreciate it. Thank you.